South Florida, we made it. It's officially game day for the 2026 Winter Classic, and we cross it over with Jon Chik of Locked On New York Rangers to discuss all the storylines heading into the big matchup from LoanDepot Park in Little Havana.
You're Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, and so with no further ado, let's go ahead and kick off this very special crossover edition here. This is Jon Chik with Locked On New York Rangers, joined by my good friend Armando Velez of Locked On Florida Panthers to talk about the Winter Classic and everything going on there and all the different storylines surrounding this team. And Armando, you've had the honor of seeing everything up close and personal the last handful of days. I know that, you've kind of been down. I believe you told me you were actually going to be on the rink. So the floor is yours, man. How has it been there? How does everything look? How has the experience been for you?
It's been an experience of a lifetime. And to think that when you consider from the time that the Panthers broke their playoff wins drought in 2022 when they won the President's Trophy and everything they've accomplished since, All-Star game, 3 straight Stanley Cup finals, and then it feels like the ultimate reward and validation for this region to get this Winter Classic game. And I mean, this has been something that has been brewing for a while, and the rumors were that the Panthers were getting a game back in December of 2024, and then the opponent wasn't official until the 9th of January. And yeah, being here for the last few days, seeing LoanDepot Park for the first time on Tuesday was awesome to see like how they progress and how on the clock these guys at the NHL are when it comes to making this a reality. And a few things that I want to share here on this edition of the show that I haven't been able to on the last few shows that I've recorded is number one, on Tuesday, when the Panthers were playing the Habs, LoanDepot Park actually opened the roof, and the only temperature difference was 1 degree from the time that it dropped. And as of right now, we're just over 24 hours from the time of this recording. When puck drop happens, it's supposed to be 63 degrees in Little Havana for the big game on Friday night in South Florida. And I also got an opportunity to skate on the ice on Wednesday. And for the span of the time that the NHL put this together and, kind of being in a little bit of a time crunch, it's an absolute success from what I'll say there. Obviously, it's not ice that you'll play on that you can play for 41 home games, but for what they've done here, I'm very, very impressed with what they were able to put together.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've seen some pictures. A lot of us are following along on social media, a lot of videos and pictures out there. But, man, there's no substitute for being there, for the real thing. So congrats to you, and I hope you have a blast, being there watching the game tomorrow. I do want to ask you about this, though, because a lot of hockey fans, and look, we know how social media is. We know a lot of people go on there, and I've done it too. I mean, we've all done it. We complain about this. We complain about that, right? But there's a lot of people who, seem overly angry that this is happening in Florida. I saw it was going to happen there. I was like, oh, warm weather. That's a little bit different. We'll see how it goes. But there's people that are mad about this. It has to be sub-zero temperatures and all this stuff. So, I mean, just your reaction to that. I mean, I feel like when you win 2 Stanley Cups in a row, you get a couple of perks, and this is one of them. But, what do you think about that whole situation?
I have a question for everyone out there.
Yeah.
Do you want this game to grow? Do you want it to grow? And if the answer is yes, then embrace this. That's what I have to say about that. And honestly, I've been having a blast going at people on social media about just when it comes to crapping on this game. I'm not even mad about it at all. I'm just like to quote tweet and call out ignorance for where it is about saying how, because it's not warm weather, they don't deserve it. It's honestly a gatekeeping mentality, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, there. But hey, people do what they want, and you can't convince certain people, and people will always continuously try to move the goalposts when it comes to hosting an outdoor game. But hey, the Florida Panthers have earned it. The Tampa Bay Lightning, they were successful before the Panthers. They had an outdoor game a few years ago in Nashville, and now they're having their opportunity. It's going to be a little bit harder to try to build a rink in Raymond James Stadium come next month. But the fact that LoanDepot Park is during the Marlins offseason, and you have a little bit of an advantage to try to put the rink together under a roof, and then having to open it for a nighttime game, which was honestly what I was predicting to begin with, that it was always going to be in the evening, even if it was 40 degrees during the daytime. I always thought that this was going to be something great. But also, when you think about just the views of LoanDepot Park for this type of game and the Miami skyline that you'll see out in left center field, the views are just perfect for a game like this. And then when you think about Florida Panthers, and then a team that's coming into their 100th season in the New York Rangers. I know there's not necessarily a heated rivalry between Florida and New York. It's crazy. Hockey is the only sport where South Florida doesn't have a rivalry with a New York team. I know these two have faced twice in the playoffs. They've faced the Islanders twice in the playoffs as well. But the fact that you have the growing fan base of hockey fans, you have the New Yorkers who travel / move here. I think it creates for a perfect situation. I was originally annoyed that it wasn't a Battle of Florida, but I honestly got over it. I'm just happy the fact that there is an outdoor game here to begin with. The fact that the Florida Panthers have been getting rewarded. It really gives an opportunity to put that a little bit of a different flavor. Because do you want it to be stale to the fact that it's in the same places like Fenway Park, Wrigley Field, to name a few? Do you want to see them go back to Yankee Stadium for the sake of going back there? Try something. That's the thing. Try something new. And the thing is, the fact that it is a standalone game, it doesn't conflict with the college football playoffs. Whether or not people agree that this game is happening, people are going to tune in just to see.
Yeah, I mean, this always does well from pretty much every metric. These games tend to be competitive in a Winter Classic because I think the players are certainly, juiced for the game, and it's always a great atmosphere. I think you hit on something that's very true. We're going to have like this interesting mix of, I think it would be more Panther fans and Ranger fans, but there's certainly going to be some Ranger fans there as well. So you'll get a pretty big reaction, pretty much anything that happens in the game, good or bad for either team. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And you talked about something that I actually talked about with Steve Mayer. We were both able to talk to him from the NHL this week. That was a lot of fun for both of us, I'm sure. But him and I talked about like different ideas and like different. He had this idea of playing one of these games on like the United States-Canada border, and like the red line would be basically right down the border. I thought that was awesome. But what were some of your takeaways with Steve Mayer? Because that was a really eye-opening conversation that I got to have with him. So
yeah, I was so thankful that the NHL was also able to set up both of us with each to have our individual interviews with him. For my listeners, make sure to go listen to John's conversation with him, and for John's listeners, make sure to come to my conversation with him, because we don't necessarily have the same exact questions, but there are some there. But just my takeaway was just how excited Steve was for this event to happen. And obviously, when you work for the NHL offices and you're trying to promote something, there, of course, you have to provide some excitement because you have to sell your product. But at the same time, just an opportunity to just tap into a new place that you haven't been to before. And obviously, what we know with South Florida and the relaxed Miami Vice type of feel. I mean, you even see it in the logo for the Winter Classic. You see the Miami is in pink from what the logo was from the old Miami Arena there, and how the Miami Heat, they have it in their logo as well for their Vice uniforms. I just think it's also a nice way of putting that twist for this Winter Classic here. So I just think that when you think about and with the themes of fire and ice on one side, I mean, just something simple as well when you come to look at the face-off dots, whether it's in the Panther zone or the Ranger zone, or even outside in the neutral zones. One side is sun for the dots, and then the other side is a snowflake. So it really is split down the middle when it comes to mixing and colliding everything together to just grow this great sport that we love.
Yeah, I think it looks cool. And to your point that you mentioned earlier, I mean, you got to try some new things. You got to try to get some other fan bases, that much more interested. And, I think mixing up the location every year and changing some of the details is a good way to do it for sure. As far as the game itself, like I do have to ask, Tkachuk, there was a rumor that maybe he could be back for this game, but I feel like they're sort of leaning against it. But I will not be surprised if he's out there on the ice. Do you have any update on Tkachuk for us? And do you expect him to be out there for this game?
Well, the team did go onto the ice in their full Winter Classic uniforms to just go for a casual skate there, and then they took their team photos, and then there was a wardrobe change where they went into their Winter Classic practice sweaters as well, which, just like the Florida Panthers with what they do with their regular sweaters, they went to their normal ones as far as the colors. But Tkachuk stayed in the yellow/gold non-contact jersey, so he will not be back on the ice for the Florida Panthers for the Winter Classic on Friday. It would have been great for the theatrics and everything as far as making a grand entrance. He's close, obviously, because of the fact that he's practicing to begin with, but he will not be suiting up. And even Paul Murray said that this isn't the type of game to bring him back when he hasn't played in a long time. But the Panthers also got a little bit of a boost as well with Alexander Barkov and Tomas Nosek being back on the ice. Cole Schwindt was also there. Even though those guys aren't necessarily close to coming back, the fact that it lifts the guys' spirits a little bit, just the fact that they're even able to skate to begin with, especially Alexander Barkov because of his injury happening back in September. So maybe he has a chance to return for the playoffs, but it was still really cool to see him out there.
I could very, very easily see Barkov being back for the playoffs because, hockey players are a different breed. And I think it gets to the point where you have to physically restrain them from going out there, they're, especially when it comes to the playoffs. But we'll keep everything rolling in just a second. Armando, you can fire away with a couple of questions about the Rangers or anything else about the Classic and whatnot. We'll get to all that good stuff and some predictions in just a second. All right, we just want to take a minute to let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers and Locked On Florida Panthers is brought to you by FanDuel. Fridays always feel different during basketball season, and FanDuel is making them even better. Every Friday night before the games tip off, FanDuel gives fans a new way to kick off the weekend with NBA Happy Hour. NBA Happy Hour is your official pregame, a limited time window where special offers drop right inside the FanDuel app before the action starts. Fridays from 6 to 7:30 Eastern have become appointment viewing with NBA Happy Hour. Opening the FanDuel app during Happy Hour always brings something new, boosts, bonuses, and surprises. So before tip-off, check the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during the NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. A little basketball, a little action, and a whole lot of Friday energy. That's NBA Happy Hour only on FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA.
And I'd like to thank you guys once again for making Locked On Florida Panthers podcast and Locked On New York Rangers podcast your first listen of the day on the nation's #1 sports podcasting network, Locked On. And if you haven't already, go check out our new Everydayer Club for Locked On Panthers and Locked On New York Rangers. It's compatible with Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and every other major podcast app. You'll get an invite to the members only Locked On Everydayer Club Discord server, which includes group chats for listeners of this show, and go to the link down below to learn more.
All right, so Armando, go ahead, fire away with any questions about the Rangers, the Classic, whatever you got for us.
Yeah, man. So I'm just very interested for when it comes to just the season that has been for the New York Rangers. Obviously, there's been a little bit of turnover over the last few years since these two teams last met in the conference final in 2024. But it's crazy. This season for the Rangers, they've been better on the road than they have been at home. And, there is that rule that they have to have every single home game at Madison Square Garden. So every outdoor game, they are the designated road team. Even the one game that they had in Citi Field against the Buffalo Sabres just a few years ago that Sam Reinhart and Evan Rodriguez actually played in. Fun fact, 15 Panthers have played in outdoor games, if you include Mackie Samoskevich playing one in the AHL. But I just want to ask you about just the vibes around the New York Rangers right now coming into this game.
I think it's probably at a season low right now because they have lost 4 of their last 5 games. And there have been multiple times this season where even where the Rangers are in the standings, and they're down right now, and if you go by points per games played, the Rangers are dead last in the Eastern Conference. It doesn't look that way if you look at the standings, but they've played more games than a lot of the teams below them. Mm-hmm. And I think one of the most disheartening things about this is there have been multiple signature, tough, gritty, emotional, hard-fought wins that they've had this season. And inevitably, when they get a win of that kind, the kind of win that they didn't get at all last season, they are immediately following it up with a clunker. Case in point, the Rangers on December 20th, they down by 2 goals to the Flyers with about 12 minutes to go, right? And it's been a hard-hitting, hard-fought game, a lot of, chirping back and forth. And again, just one of those, big-time division matchup kind of games. The Rangers storm back, they tie the game, with like 3 minutes left. They scored 2 goals, late in the third. They win it in the shootout. What have they done since then? Well, they've won one of their next 5 games, and that leads us right into the Winter Classic here. So again, it's at a point now, especially this most recent loss of the Caps, where you're realizing, if you're a Ranger fan, that this team is extremely top heavy. They don't have any depth whatsoever. And so when you have to play a handful of games without somebody like JT Miller, without somebody like Adam Fox, it's just going to absolutely kill you. And on top of that, a lot of the guys that are paid to be the star players, not exactly having career seasons right now. So it's all just kind of added up to a whole lot of nothing and a season that's gone off the rails pretty quickly here. And, I'll keep my fingers crossed that the Rangers can pull a borderline miracle here against the Panthers, but I'm not really that optimistic. It's honestly probably as down as I've been about this team thus far this season.
Yeah, and it's funny because I was just looking at JT Miller's game logs because December 20th was actually the last game that he played. It's funny, when I was making an Olympic episode and I was saying I want JT Miller on this team. This is a guy that I would run through a freaking wall through for this guy with his tenacity, how much people love him, and then how they voted him captain after being traded out of Vancouver, which maybe message to Elias Pettersson. Maybe you were the problem? Question mark there. But it's crazy because you think about how much of a boost this should be for the New York Rangers. I mean, Adam Fox scored in his return just the other day, and it's crazy. The reports are coming out about him not making Team USA for possibly a guy in Seth Jones, who will be playing in his 900th game come this Winter Classic. It's crazy. Last year, Matt Rempe made his debut in the Winter Classic, and then this year, Seth Jones is making a little bit of a milestone, playing in game number 900 here for his career, and crazy the boost that he was able to get. But it's crazy, John. Panthers have been on the opposite side of comebacks lately, with the exception of Montreal on Tuesday. So for the Panthers this month, it's really been about just the fact that nobody has been able to deliver that knockout punch for the Panthers. It's crazy because they're still iffy on their power play. They're 19th ranked in the NHL, and to think that their penalty kill is still staying pretty intact without guys like Alexander Barkov, Tomas Nosek to be on that part of the ice, and the fact that they could possibly get that boost with Matthew Tkachuk coming very soon, not in this game. I think the Panthers are in an outstanding spot, and to think that Sergei Bobrovsky hasn't even been at his best, which I have some news for Panther fans who were hoping that he would bring out the Beezer mask from 96 for the Winter Classic. It's not happening in this one, but hey, I think we have yet to see the best from Bobrovsky.
Yeah, I mean, I noticed Bobrovsky too. I looked at his stats. He's an interesting one to me. I just feel like he's taken such an interesting career path where, he had some initial success and then he fell off for a little while. And honestly, Armando, even when he got to the Panthers, that first season or two, a little bit shaky. Next thing you know, he's in his mid-30s and winning back-to-back Stanley Cups. And I mean, I think at this point, his legacy is cemented. But, despite everything that's gone on with the Rangers and everything that's, gone wrong, I'll never miss a chance to watch Igor versus Bob. I mean, the two of them in the conference final a couple of years ago, I mean, they put on an absolute clinic. That was a hard-fought series, and there were players getting it done on both sides and some big-time highlight moments for each team. And obviously, the Panthers ultimately won. But man, I mean, they were as good as anybody in that series. So it's always a joy to watch those two go head-to-head.
And if Russia were to go to the Olympics, you'd have a three-way three goalies of possibly Andrei Vasilevsky, Igor Shesterkin, and Sergei Bobrovsky. And if someone else is going to be fighting for it, maybe Ilya Sorokin. If Ilya Sorokin were to make it, who would be the one missing out? So that would be a tough decision if Russia were to be going to the Olympics. But so this won't be the first time that Bobrovsky will be facing the Rangers in an outdoor game, as they did when he was part of the Philadelphia Flyers in that game in Citizens Bank Park back in 2013 there. So a very familiar place that Sergei Bobrovsky finds himself in this one. So, I mean, it also gives these guys a little bit of a down memory lane as guys who have played outdoors. Sam Reinhart and Brad Marchand also spoke about it in their media availabilities. And then when we spoke to Sergei Bobrovsky in the locker room, he spoke about the coldest game that he'd ever been a part of was minus 30 degrees Celsius as well. So, this is going to be a very not necessarily familiar territory as far as the weather, but as far as the vibes and the outdoors of being outside, I think that none of these guys are going to be very fazed by the environment.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I mean, it's not going to be the harshest of conditions that we've ever seen. Obviously, the rink plays a little bit differently when you have these outdoor games, but it's one of those things. I mean, you mentioned that a bunch of the Panthers players have at least some experience playing outdoors, and
More
the
than I
Rangers,
thought.
they were in that stadium series just a couple of years ago here, and they had a dramatic win against the Islanders. So I'm hoping for more of the same, but a little bit skeptical. You touched on something a second ago. I got to get your perspective on this. So Adam Fox, to the chagrin of Ranger fans everywhere, because apparently we can't have anything nice this season, he was left off the United States Olympic team. Seth Jones is on, Brock Faber is on. A lot of Ranger fans kind of pointing at the two of them, and Fox should be ahead of them in the pecking order, and he should be on this team. Just your thoughts on that, and we won't get mad at you either way, if you think Jones should be there.
Well, my prediction was that Fox and Jones were going to be there, and Noah Hannafin out. That's what I had in my prediction. So I was very shocked, and the fact that it's his own coach in Mike Sullivan that is reportedly, because it's not official until January 2nd on the Today Show, which will be around 8 a.m., which we'll hear the official announcement that Adam Fox is out. But I'm just very surprised by that. And is it another Marty St. Louis, Steve Yzerman situation from back in 2014 when that happened? But hey, an injury situation also allowed Marty St. Louis to eventually play, which there's a little bit of a something going on as far as Team Canada. Bo Horvat got injured, so does Sam Bennett get the call as far as going to Team Canada there? But Adam Fox is a Norris winner. He's a right-handed shot as well. I know Seth Jones is also a right-handed shot as well, but I looked. Nick Zararis of Locked On NHL spoke about this on the Thursday show just last week about what the Rangers are on the ice with Adam Fox there versus when he's not. And it's a big difference when that happens. But also maybe Mike Sullivan's maybe trying to protect his player for possibly a playoff run if they do eventually make it. I don't know. I'm not going to pretend like I do, but that's kind of my guess there.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of theories out there. I mean, there was a report that Sullivan pushed hard for Fox, and so did Drury, and so did even David Quinn. He's an assistant coach with the Rangers now after being the head coach previously. And that's an interesting theory. Yeah. That's an interesting theory, too, that you had there, Armando, that maybe he's just trying to protect Fox and keep him healthy and, keep him for the games that count for the Rangers down the stretch here. I mean, any of it's possible, and certainly we'll be talking about that more on Locked On New York Rangers. But in just a minute, I figure, we'll keep everything going here, Armando. We'll have some predictions, some players to watch, some final thoughts, all that good stuff here before we call it a day. All right, so obviously talking Rangers, Panthers, Winter Classic, all things NHL here. Jon Chik and Armando Velez. Armando, what are you thinking about just in general, like any under-the-radar players to watch on the Panthers right now? Because obviously there have been some injuries, most notably Barkov and Tkachuk, and the Panthers are right in the thick of everything. Have you seen some guys kind of step up, either in a leadership role or just in general, just bringing it and kind of filling those shoes a little bit?
I got to go with Anton Lundell for the Panthers here because, I mean, to think that, losing Alexander Barkov at the start of training camp and then having to take more of those minutes, I mean, I know that Anton Lundell also plays a big role in the penalty kill even before the injury, but the fact that he's out there as far as some of the first units there even earlier, and even for Sam Reinhart, usually when Sam Reinhart and Alexander Barkov are together on the penalty kill, they're that second unit on for the forwards because the logic is that when the power play one for the opposite team is towards the end of their shift, that unit of Barkov and Reinhart could go on a shorthanded rush towards the end of their shift to at least get hopefully an odd man situation there. But Sam Reinhart's one of the first player units is part of that first unit on the ice, and they're getting shorthanded rushes consistently there as of late, which right now the Sam Reinhart is 3 shorthanded goals away from breaking the franchise record for the Panthers, which right now he's tied with Alexander Barkov there. But I mean, 2 guys who are getting a little bit hot right now, Sam Bennett, who I'm sure he's gonna play with his hair on fire even more than he already has with being snubbed from the Olympic team. Carter Verhaeghe, he had a little bit of a bump being a new dad come earlier this month on December 2nd. And then after that, he had a wet on a heater. He's a little bit on a drought as of late, but you can never count out Carter Verhaeghe when it comes to a big game as well for him. And I mean, I mentioned him as well. Seth Jones. I mean, this is an opportunity for him to really put his name more on a big stage like this in the Winter Classic. And he's also been in a Winter Classic. He was just in one last year with the Chicago Blackhawks against the St. Louis Blues. And also, one of the conversations around the Blackhawks last year about how their season went so south was how they performed in the Winter Classic and how the world saw how poorly they played. So if you don't think that this is a very important game for these guys, think again, because the narratives that could go one way or the other for this team can really change one way or the other based on what happens.
Hearing you put it that way, it almost feels like this is the Rangers' last chance. If there's any hope of turning this thing around, of climbing the standings, of going on a little bit of a run here, they got to bring it in this game, and they got to find a way to win. And that's a heck of a lot easier said than done right now. To your point, Armando, the Rangers have been better on the road than at home. Although even that hasn't really held up recently. They've lost a good amount of their recent away games as well. But yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that they can obviously put it together here and figure everything out. But I don't know. I am skeptical based on what I've seen recently here. That is for sure.
Hey, they've never lost.
What's that?
They've never lost an outdoor game. So who knows?
That is going to be severely put to the test tomorrow. That is for sure. But I want to ask you this too, because technically right now the Panthers on the outside of the playoff picture looking in, and I think certainly the injuries have had something to do with that. Is there any fear that this team would end up missing the playoffs? I mean, I don't think they're going to. I think for sure they're eventually going to go on their run. Getting Tkachuk back will help, and I think they'll be right in there. But I mean, is there any of that? Like, because the rest of the Eastern Conference would love nothing more than to not have to deal with the Panthers in the playoffs. But is there any fear of that at all for you or other Panther fans?
I don't have that fear, especially with Tkachuk being close. And I mean, who would have thought the Buffalo Sabres would have won 10 in a row come last month? I mean, they won 3 in a row right before firing Kevin Adams, and now they're in a little bit of an evaluation period. They know they're being watched by new eyes in Jarmo Kekalainen, who Bill Zito worked with back in Columbus there. So not really feel that the Panthers are in danger. The only thing that is going, I don't know how to put this, against the Panthers, if for lack of a better phrase, is the fact that they've had their home portion of the schedule mostly throughout these first 3 months, and it's going to be very road heavy. And it starts with a Canadian trip after their game against the Colorado Avalanche on Sunday, which they'll also be wearing their Winter Classic jerseys. Then they'll be going to Canada and Western New York, which they'll meet those Buffalo Sabres that I mentioned earlier. But you look at the state of the Leafs, the Senators, who they're without Linus Ullmark as well. Maybe the Panthers can find a way to win some games there. But it's funny because the Panthers started 0-4 on the road, and now they're over 500. So they've actually gotten it together there. So, and honestly, when you look at the Panthers, their road, the way they were able to win consecutive Stanley Cups was their ability to win on the road. They had the best road penalty kill in the playoffs. They clinched every single series in the last year's playoffs on the road, with the exception of the Stanley Cup final, Game 6. So I have a good feeling that the Panthers can go into any building and find a way to win in any environment.
Absolutely. And I'm realizing I forgot to mention an under the radar player for the Rangers. So I'll do that now real quick. I mean, not under the radar, but certainly a player to watch is Panarin. He obviously is
contract here.
Yeah. he enjoys the spotlight, and he basically torched the Islanders a couple of years ago in the not the Winter Classic, the Stadium Series at MetLife there. So that was great to see. Somebody that I'll throw out there, if there's some rough stuff, which there has been in recent history between the Rangers and Panthers, is Sam Carrick. This is somebody that, his offensive upside is very, very limited, right? He's a fourth line center. That's what he is. But he's also somebody that knows exactly who and what he is as a hockey player. He goes out there and he brings it. He stands up for teammates. He'll try to get under the skin of opponents a little bit, and he'll mix it up, and, he'll wear his hard hat every single game. And he's really won over Ranger fans. A lot of times Ranger fans, the player that they have difficulty warming up to is like this random journeyman that you bring in, and he's blocking the path of the new prospect, right? Well, that's not the case with Sam Carrick, because I think fans, he fought Tom Wilson in the last game after Wilson ran Noah Laba, our rookie, and knocked him out of commission. So Carrick's awesome. And I think if the intensity picks up, you'll see him right in the middle of it.
Yeah.
And one more that I'll throw out there as a little bonus is Gabe Perreault, former first-round pick. And, been a little quiet the last couple of games, but I'm really hoping that, he'll stay in the top 6, which I think he will. And hopefully he has a moment here, because I think that can be really big for a young player to have a moment in an environment like this.
Yeah, and I really liked how they covered Sam Carrick in the Road to the Winter Classic about him owning a maple syrup company as well. So that's pretty cool
Awesome.
how that's been passed down from his family down. And also, if I could add one more person to the mix when it comes to guys to watch out for, because a guy who plays well in big games, I mean, Brad Marchand. I mean, this is going to be his third outdoor game in his career. I mean, yeah, when you play for the Boston Bruins for a long time, you're going to get those opportunities, especially 2 years ago when they had the Winter Classic against the Pittsburgh Penguins, that little Fenway connection with them also owning the Pittsburgh Penguins, which that's about to be for sale. It's not official, but it's about to be. But still, the fact that Brad Marchand has this experience, and it'll also help mentor some of the guys who haven't been in a game like in a game like this, for those few who haven't. But I just think that Brad Marchand, especially because he's on a track to score 50 goals at 37 years old, I think that that's a possibility that momentum could continue. I mean, and to think that when they traded for him back in March, the fact that he would have that much of an impact and that he would be competing for the Conn Smythe, it was either going to be between him or Sam Bennett. I mean, there was not going to be a wrong answer either way if it was going to go to Brad Marchand or Sam Bennett. But Brad Marchand, man, what can you say? And the fact that they recently had a celebration for his 1,000th point before the Habs game, and I'm sure that he kind of wants to, leave that a little dirty taste in his mouth after maybe costing the Panthers the game after a penalty on Mike Matheson back on Tuesday that had them go on the kill in overtime.
Just the fact that Marchand is a Panther still kind of blows my mind a little bit. I mean, I'm sure you're
same here. Yeah, I hated him for years.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. And just the fact that the Bruins would trade him to the Panthers, and then it's like, all right, well, he's a rental. He'll be there. They're pushing their chips in to try to win another cup here. But, he'll be on his way in the offseason. And then they re-sign him long-term. And it's just like, oh my God. And now the season that he's happening, pretty crazy. How long did it take from him to go to the enemy to, like, everybody's favorite?
I mean, he set up Sam Bennett on the game winner in his very first game against the Utah Hockey Club. And crazy to think that when they made that trade, he was hurt, and they put a condition there for on the trade, the Boston Bruins did, for if they made the conference final and he played 50% of the games, it would go to a first. And had those conditions not been met, it would have been a second round pick. So well worth the investment if you're Bill Zito making that trade. And the next first round pick for the Panthers isn't until 2028. So their last first round pick, it was in 2021 for Mackie Semiskevich, and him and Anton Lundell are the only Bill Zito picks that have remained with the Florida Panthers as far as first rounders. Everyone else has been trades or guys who have remained from previously for the previous management for the Cats there. So yeah, great asset management that Bill Zito has been able to do, which Bill Zito will actually speak to the media at 1:30 right before the Fan Fest for the Winter Classic. But also, I'm very excited to see the player arrivals between these two teams. The Rangers will be arriving at 4:45. The Panthers will be arriving at 5:15. So very excited to see what's going to happen as they will be walking down 6th Street just behind the home plate garage.
Nice. That sounds like a lot of fun. So do you want to make any kind of a prediction here, like final score, game-winning goals, somebody do this or that, or anything about the environment there?
I'm gonna go with Brad Marchand for this one for the MVP. But if there's a shutout, it's gonna go to Sergei Bobrovsky. But I just think that there's that opportunity for the theater to be right there with Brad Marchand. And I know it's called the Cocoa Cup, but I'm going to put a little bit of a South Florida flavor, and I'm going to thank my friend Francisco Aporta, Florida Panthers historian, for this, the Cafecito Cup for this one for South Florida. So I'm going to say Brad Marchand will win the Cafecito Cup for the game MVP for the Winter Classic. How about you, my friend?
Yeah, I just can't find a way to predict the Rangers to win this game. I mean, could they? Sure. I mean, anything's possible. Any team in the AHL can win against any other team on any given night. But what I've seen from the Rangers lately is just very concerning. And I feel like, in theory, all these players will be jacked up to play in this game. I just get the feeling that the Panthers might be a little bit more so, not to mention the fact that they're just a far better team than the Rangers right now. So I think Igor keeps the Rangers in the game for a while because that's how all these games go. Mm-hmm. And I think the Panthers eventually pull away and probably win it something along the lines of, 4-2. And Marchand getting the game winner, I mean, I kind of hope not, but I can't really I can't really tell you that that's a bad prediction, Armando, because he's come up big in big spots like this for sure.
No doubt. And hey, it should be fun. I can't wait to experience it in person, and for everyone in South Florida and all the Ranger fans who will travel to see this in person. And I hope you enjoy watching this on TV, and obviously you provide everything with your opinions on the X platform and everything. I'm very excited to see what you have to say based on watching it on the television at this time, 8 p.m. on Friday.
Absolutely. And so for Armando and myself, thank you to Ranger fans, Panther fans, general hockey fans for tuning in, and we will see you guys next time.